Welcome all. It's draft night again on Primetime Mock, the show where we bring you an industry draft with special guests from all over the fantasy community. I'm the host of this draft party, Mark Shue, and we have got a good one for you tonight. We are talking running backs, and I'm so excited to bring in our panel. So let's start with our first guest. He is from Fantasy in Frames, Mr. Jorge Edwards. Jorge, what's going on, man?
Mark, thanks for having me. It's a fantastic time of year. Gotta love draft season. Love talking running backs. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this, man. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
And we're ready to go too. The draft has started, and of course, I decide to put myself first as I'm doing introductions and making my pick. We're gonna move right on over now to the diva of Debbie herself. From under the helmet, it's Katie Flower. Katie, what's going on?
How you doing, Mark? Thanks for having me. It's great to be back. And how's it going, Jorge?
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
I'm doing great here as well. I just took Jonathan Taylor, so I don't know if I can be unhappy about that. And you went right back with Christian McCaffrey. Those are my two platinum tier members here on Primetime Mock. We think of platinum tier as members, candidates for the top one overall positional player. So how do you feel about McCaffrey? Is he in that same tier for you as Jonathan Taylor?
Yes, absolutely. He's a running back that can catch, and he now has a quarterback upgrade with Baker Mayfield. Are you hearing the music?
I am hearing the music.
Sorry, it was distracting me.
Oh, we've got a video playing somewhere.
There we go.
Okay, it's gone. Sorry. So anyway, I love Christian McCaffrey because he is a two-way running back and wide receiver. He is more than just catching the swing passes out of the backfield, and he's got a quarterback upgrade with Baker Mayfield.
I love it. I'm really excited about Christian McCaffrey this year. If you're worried about the injuries, I'm not particularly. I really think that all running backs can get injured from time to time. He's an elite level. He's an elite level player, and if you get him in that top one or two spots, he's a cheat code. He's a league winner all on his own. All right, moving on now from Dynasty Pros Fantasy.com. It's Tim Lazenby. Tim, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Happy to be here. What better day is there than to talk football?
There's no better day to talk football other than every day, Tim. And this is your first time on the show.
Yeah.
We here at Primetime are always happy to meet new people. If you're out there, if you're part of the fantasy community, if you like to think of yourself as part of the fantasy community, we want to have you on Primetime Mock. So if you haven't been, we're happy to have you. And Tim, we're happy to have you as our newbie tonight.
Happy to be here.
All right, moving right along. She is from her own Get Real podcast. We have Kacey Kasem. Kacey, what's going on?
Hey, just chilling, getting ready to have a great draft with all of you, and being the narcissist that I am, having my own podcast named after myself.
That's awesome.
And speaking of people who love to have their name in their own podcast, the newly named Hutchinson Brown's Fantasy Perspective, it's Hutchinson Brown. Hutchinson, what's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Doing well. I saw that you were taking some driving lessons the other day on Twitter. How'd they go?
They've been going great. Yeah, recently I just got my learner's permit, so I just turned 16 on July 12th. Just got my learner's permit. And I've been driving a little bit. It's been really fun.
I love it. I'm a Lehigh Valley resident, so please be safe. That's all I ask. and finally, it's my buddy, friend in prime time, Clayton Stoneburner, Burner of Stone. A couple minutes late, but we're not going to knock him for it. Burner, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, not a whole lot. Life is busy as usual. Good to meet you all. Big fan of all of you. Happy to do this. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're going to be having a great time on Primetime Mock talking about running backs. If you're here watching, please go ahead and head over to YouTube and subscribe to Primetime Fantasy Network on YouTube. We got a lot of other stuff going on. Fantasy football is back this year. The fantasy and DFS reality competition I pioneered last year. We're back for our second season, and we're looking for a winner to claim the $5,000 first prize. So if you're out there, check out my Twitter, Primetime Mock. You'll see you'll see a pinned tweet with all the information for you to sign up. But let's get back into this draft. I need to make my pick. And we've talked about our first tier of running backs. This is so great, me not looking into the camera as I do this. We talked about our first tier of running backs, that platinum tier, JT and McCaffrey. Right after went Eckler, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Dalvin Cook. Where does that second tier? For us, Primetime, it's a tier of candidates for the top 4 overall players at your position. So where does that gold tier sort of end for us? Let's see. Hutchinson, you are the latest in that run. Do you think DeAndre Swift stays in that same tier as everybody else that went before him?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, my tier 2 of running backs is Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, and then Dalvin Cook. So obviously Taylor McCaffrey at the top, but that's my tier 2 there. And I feel like those guys all have a very good chance of finishing top 4 at their position. All of them could absolutely make it.
Yeah, Iowa got a steal, in my opinion, for Dalvin Cook all the way at the 1-8. Although, you might get worried about again, all running backs get injured, though. If they miss a few games here and there, that Dalvin Cook is an auto RB1 every time he's in there, and that's all you can really ask for.
I've got.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying, it was very close for me between Swift and Cook. I've got Swift and Cook back to back in my rankings, but just went with Swift, the younger rising star, rather than the older fading out player.
And as we're looking into this second round, we only have 8 players in our panel, 8 contestants here in our panel to decide running backs. As we get into that second round, pick 12, pick 13 are Saquon Barkley and Aaron Jones. And I'm actually really starting to think the candidates for top 4 really kind of end getting closer to, into the teens rather than where Cook went there. Alvin Kamara, it's looking more and more every day like his suspension might be pushed off into next year. So it looks like if you're not at the tippy top, there are a large number of running backs that you can take. Does anybody else want to take the floor here?
It's interesting, and it's kind of ties into a little bit of some wide receiver talk, which I won't get into because obviously we're talking about running backs today. But I feel like both of these positions are very front loaded, like front to mid loaded. Normally, there's all this talk. You can wait on wide receiver. I'm like, can you really wait on wide receiver this year? Same is true for running backs. It's very interesting, Mark.
Yeah, I want to give one shout to someone who I think can finish top 5 of their position this year. That's Breece Hall, who I actually took at the 2.2. I think that was a bolder pick. I heard people reacting to that one in this group here. But I'm going to give you a stat for you guys. Credit to Luke Sawhook for this one. I'm sure some of you know him. He's at Luke Sawhook on Twitter. Go leave him a follow over there. But in each of the past 5 years, there has been a rookie running back that has finished in the top 15 for fantasy and PPR. And 4 of those past 5 years, there's been at least one rookie running back to finish top 6. So Breece Hall, looking at the running backs this year, rookie running backs, Kenneth Walker still has to compete with Rashad Penny. He's in a horrible offense. And then Isaiah Spiller's behind Austin Eckler. Rashad White's behind Leonard Fournette. Zamir White is behind, I believe he was on the Raiders. He's behind Josh Jacobs. Breece Hall is, if there's one of these guys that's going to finish top 6, it's very likely going to be Breece Hall. And this is a rising offense with a rising quarterback in Zach Wilson. So I absolutely love Breece Hall. He's my RB9 in my rankings right now in PPR. I got him at the 10th running back. So I have him ranked over Alvin Kamara. That's the only one guy I have him ranked over from those first 10 guys drafted. But yeah, I absolutely love Breece Hall. Just wanted to give him a shout out there. And I got a pick.
I have another question here as we're going through. For me, when I'm building in two wide receiver leagues as opposed to 3 wide receiver leagues, I'm always pushing to have more running backs. I'm taking more running backs in the early rounds than I would normally if I had a third receiver to sort of balance that out. But when we're thinking three receivers in our when we're thinking we have 3 receivers in our fantasy leagues, what is the latest we think we're comfortable going without a running back, without our running back 1 coming through? Do we have any 0 RB drafters here, or do we kind of think, okay, our top 12, I really want to get one of those top 12 running backs? And we can open that to, let's see. We haven't heard from Katie. Katie, go ahead and
You go ahead.
I
provide.
want strength at running back. I still think that, yes, there's some wide receivers at the top, but the wide receiver position is so deep. If you have to start 3, you can still start in the second, third round, but give me that running back in the first round just to get that guy and then start with my wide receivers.
Sure, because ultimately this position is demand. A lot of this position is demand. So a lot of running backs do get pushed up. But if you're looking to really, if you're spending up on a running back, you want to make sure that you're getting a top tier guy. I like that. So go ahead.
All right. Sorry, I was just gonna say I'm actually kind of the opposite, where I'm willing to wait on the running back position. Injury. I've kind of like transitioned from heavy RB kind of player to sort of being willing to go 0 RB. I'm not a crazy 0 RB truther, but I'm willing to go that strategy, especially this year. Like, there are a lot of guys in like that 7th, 8th round range that I actually like. Like, I love AJ Dillon this year. I love Kareem Hunt for this year. Rashad Penny is someone that I really like. I absolutely love Tony Pollard. I like Kenneth Walker for what he could do in the second half of the season. And Breece Hall in the 4th round I love. But yeah, I'm willing to wait on the running back position because the guys at the top, they're getting hurt a lot, and you're making a huge investment for somebody that really just may not pan out. So, and you can always find running backs on the waiver wire with the injuries at the top that are going to happen. So I'm willing to wait on running back.
It's a lot easier now with running back to just follow where the targets go.
It is, yeah. Some people, if you can find guys, when you target sleepers later, find guys that can take pass catching work, like Kareem Hunt especially. AJ Dillon caught 34 balls last year. Like, those are the guys that break out from those later rounds.
Absolutely, and we all know that there is some truth to the RB dead zone. It doesn't seem like we have a lot of running backs that pop as we get past the into the 3rd round through rounds 5 or 6. But actually, as I look at what would be the RB dead zone and what we have here in our draft, looking at other ADP from other drafts, I would say as we get through about round 3 of this draft, where sort of after ETN, that's where you start to see the RB dead zone really start to form. And there are still guys that I'm willing to take here, though I am more willing to wait even more once I get past the dead zone. For me, I'm much more like Katie, where I'll draft my hero running back, and then I'll try and catch one on a good value as we get into round 3. But if it's not there, I'm probably waiting till round 6 or 7 and loading up on a receiver.
That's my absolute favorite strategy, the hero RB strategy. Grab a guy in round 1 and then just grab a guy in the early rounds and just ride it out and see what value falls later in the draft.
Did you just make that up, or is that like a thing? Hero RB strategy?
No, that's a thing. No, that's a real thing.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can take the credit. I definitely can't take the credit. What am I saying? I know that I can't.
You're either a hero or a
call
zero.
Anchor RB. I hear Anchor RB. I hear hero RB. Like, those are the 2 names I hear thrown around the most. But yeah, I usually call it hero RB. But I hear mostly Anchor. Incorrect.
I'll have to look up the MLA citation for that.
Exactly.
My high school English teacher would want me to look that up and find who it is. I think if I'm being honest, I think the first time I heard it was from JJ Zachariason, but that's as far as I can really go. I'm not exactly sure who took it and ran with that. We're ending up round 5 here into round 6, and I'm taking Ramondre Stevenson. Actually, really excited about the prospects of him this year. Especially now that we're seeing James White come out on the PUP. It feels like to me that at least that receiving role is open, and he did provide a receiving threat for them last year as a rookie. I'm really hoping that they can open that up. I'm hoping obviously Damian Harris is going to be involved, it seems like, but the Patriots, whether you love to avoid them or not, they are still a team that scores a lot of touchdowns every year and uses the run game effectively. So whether or not you're worried about when is your player going to hit and when are they not, if you're taking them as your RB4, RB5, I love the prospect of Ramondre Stevenson. And we're sort of getting into that 0 RB target area. Who are some other? I see that. Let's see. Katie, you took Marlon Mack. Why don't you talk about him? He's probably the last starter out there right now.
And that's exactly why I took him. He's the only starter left of all the running backs. And his injury wasn't the greatest in the world, but he's shown, and he's the leader in the clubhouse in Houston. And I know Houston stinks, but I'd still rather have a starting running back here rather than and I was sniped on Madison, by the way. Thank you very much. I was just getting ready I was ready to hit the button as soon as you picked it. I'm like, you son of a gun.
I can't apologize, Katie, but I'm sorry for it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I took him. He's the last of the starters.
I love it, and I'm let's see if this comes up here.
You're adding more slots right now.
I'm adding more slots because I realize we only have 48. I don't know how to do math, apparently. Looking for 64 slots, so we've got 2 more rounds here.
When I joined the draft, it said 8 teams, 6 rounds, and you said 64 in the chat, and I was like, 6 times 8 is not 64.
That might change my entire draft strategy. Just letting you know.
I trusted you, Mark. I trusted you.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to burn it all down and come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
We make mistakes out here on Primetime Fantasy. We're not afraid to own them. We own all our mistakes out here. Burner, I haven't talked to you in a little bit. I love that Chase Edmonds pick. Tell me a little bit about your last couple picks here.
The last couple picks, looking at Chase Edmonds, they paid him $12.6 million over 2 years. That's $6.3 million a year. You don't pay that to a backup. He's going to lead that backfield. And then it's Rojo, man. If you don't know about Rojo, go to my profile. Check out my pinned tweet. You do not besmirch the name of Rojo.
Did you hear about the Rojo news that he might not make the roster?
I don't believe it. I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. But I'm gonna wait till I see that. But man, that was because I was a Rojo truther last year. I absolutely loved Rojo. Unfortunately, got killed by Leonard Fournette. But I was in on Rojo last year. I still believe he is a decently talented running back, especially as a runner. But seeing that sucked.
Speaking of,
you know how you know it's a lie? You know how you know it's a lie? Because the guy who might take his spot is the guy who can't stay healthy and had one good half a year in his entire career.
That's it.
Derek McKinnon is not going over Ronald Jones.
Speaking of Fournette, what do y'all think he's going to do? Balling at 260.
Yeah. I've been
he's going to get one of those trash bags.
Hey man, they might need an O-line.
Everything.
All I will say is if you've ever been to Florida in August, and you've ever just been out in the sun for more than like 20 minutes, I imagine that weight's coming off and he'll be just fine. It's Rojo. I mean, not Rojo. Yeah. Sorry, Fournette to me feels like he's back. Brady's back. If Brady didn't want him back, he wouldn't be there.
All I just heard from you, Mark, is that I need to move to Florida.
I mean,
I moved Fournette down one spot. I moved Brees Hall jumped to RB9. Fournette jumped down to RB10, but that was I'm not too concerned either. I'm just getting more and more excited about Brees Hall. I'm just getting more and more excited as the days go on.
So call me nuts, but I think you're excited about Brees Hall.
Yes, yeah.
I didn't know if that was coming through. Yeah, I just wanted to double check.
We're in the muck here, my friends.
Yeah, this is gross. This is a gross world.
So this is where you are made or broken.
That's right. Well, hey, I'll take Jamal Williams back here. He seems like no matter what, he's going to be involved. I don't think that he's taking away any sort of time from Swift. But if Swift does get injured, Jamal Williams is seeing the majority of that work as long as he's healthy.
And I'm so sad that I put his name in your head before we got on. I was the one that put his name in your head. Dang it!
Well, you can tell yourself that, Katie. I was hoping Jamal was coming to me.
He's my boy. He's my boy.
And now I'm just gonna time out here while I gloat. I'll take Darrell Henderson.
Wow.
All right, as we're wrapping up here, we're finishing up the last few picks of the 8th round. That's where we need to stop, apparently. So we're getting to the point. I want to hear about everybody's draft. You don't need to talk about every single player. Talk about a pick that you liked. Talk about a pick that maybe you didn't like so much, or maybe we got to a point in the draft where there was a tier break and you just had to take the first guy in the next tier and you're really bummed about it. You've got a couple of those. You've got a couple late flyers or some format targets. I'd love to hear about them. And let's start with Katie Flower.
All right. So you did snipe me on several guys late, but I was thinking of taking A.J. Dillon with my 2nd round pick because of the 3rd round reversal in this draft. I love A.J. Dillon. I figured with his ADP, even with all the running backs that are out there, I could probably still get him. And then with Antonio Gibson on the board in the 3rd round and only you to pick 2 guys before I got a shot, I felt pretty comfortable waiting on A.J. Dillon as long as I did. And I did get him in the 4th round. That's huge, huge, huge value. Not only can he own that backfield by himself with one Aaron Jones injury, but he's going to, with Aaron Jones in the receiving role of Devontae Adams and taking up a lot of those targets, that's going to give a lot of room for A.J. Dillon. They're going to use both running backs. They're going to use a lot of Aaron Jones. They're going to use a lot of A.J. Dillon despite injury. This man is relevant whether Aaron Jones is injured or not.
Yeah, I love Dillon. It's great.
I love that prognosis, Katie. Even through last year, I was saying that Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon can easily be top 24 backs. And honestly, if they become as run heavy as we're thinking they might have to be because of the receiving game that they're kind of left with, and honestly the way the offense has been run over the past couple of years, it wouldn't surprise me if we have 2 of them really, even closer to the top 15.
Yeah, and I have a quick stat for that. I've looked at the past 6 times that 2 backfield mates in the same offense have each hit at least 200 touches, and this includes Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon last year. 5 of those 6 situations, both backs were top 24. So, people like to try to ignore backfield committees and just say they're gross. 2 backs can absolutely have success in the same backfield. And I see the same situation with Jones and Dillon.
And yeah, go ahead, Jorge.
I mean, from the days of Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman to Ingram and Kamara, I mean, you've seen these committees, over the few years, completely have
Eckler and Gordon.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Eckler and Gordon, exactly. Thank you. You should. What Hutch just said is 100% correct. There is, an opportunity, especially in like PPR leagues and half PPR leagues, you have more flexibility to go after committee backfields. Not so much in non-PPR leagues, I feel like.
Yeah, I was talking PPR scoring, to be fair.
So it really depends on the scoring format, but just because of the popularity of PPR or half PPR. I think a lot of us default to that setting, but we have to remember there is a segment of the population that still does like a non-PPR. So it really does depend there. And in fact, really, when you start thinking about it, you kind of get limited pretty quickly in non-PPR situations. Getting those like lead backs, like a Najee Harris is somebody who you're coveting. Back in the day, it was Ezekiel Elliott, but now with the emergence of Tony Pollard, are you coveting him as much? So just something to be familiar with, know your league settings and how that can impact who you're targeting in your draft. If I could actually jump in, I want to talk about a couple players here from my draft here.
Absolutely.
So Katie, I understand where you're coming from with Marlon Mack. I just don't know whether or not he's going to hold that backfield for the rest of the year. And I'm a pretty big Damien Pierce truther.
Yes,
I loved him coming out of college. I like his upside. I don't know if I agree with the take on it is Max, but he is the starter. I guess technically he is the starter. We'll find out in training camp if he's actually going to hold on to that or be supplanted. But I wanted to swing for upside there. And then my next pick, apparently it's Khalil Herbert day, or it was today or yesterday, and everybody's been on the Khalil Herbert bandwagon.
It was something like that.
Yeah. I have no idea what spawned that, but everybody started to talk about him. So on Twitter, look, he's coming. The new offensive coordinator is coming over from Green Bay, utilizing that 2 running back approach, making both running backs viable. I do want to say this. So anyhow, I do want to say this before I keep going on Khalil Herbert. Let's not forget that David Montgomery is good. I think a lot of people just want to write him off and just be like, oh, well, Khalil Herbert, I think the dynasty people are still, ranting and raving. Oh, Khalil Herbert, he did so great last year when he came on a relief role for David Montgomery. You should totally, get Herbert. No, none of the talk about David Montgomery. I understand he's coming into his last year of his contract, but you know what? Who cares? This running game is going to be this running scheme rather is going to be tailored to both of these running backs. As much as people want to hype up Khalil Herbert, it was both in the receiving game and in running the ball, according to PFF, that David Montgomery was superior. Herbert, still has some work to do in the receiving game. So there is something to be said there. But that being said, at this point in the draft, I'm drafting for upside because I've already got my starters. I already got my 4 running backs with Eckler, Elliott, Mitchell, and Hunt, who have shown at least 3 out of the 4 that they can legitimately be RB1s because they have been RB1s. And if Mitchell can stay healthy a whole entire season, I believe he can also be an RB1 also. Tyler Beatty, he is for my Dynasty podcast co-host. He's a huge fan of him in Baltimore. Look, Gus Bus, I love Gus Edwards. We share the same last name. That's as far as we go, as far as relation that I'm aware of. And he's coming off an ACL. So is J.K. Dobbins. We all heard the reports of J.K. Dobbins, whether or not he's coming back or not on time. Gus Edwards, I have not heard much about Gus Edwards, which I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. And there's been a lot of great hype about Tyler Beatty coming out of college this year. So opportunity on a run first heavy Baltimore Ravens team. Yeah, give me the starting running back if he is in that position. Then capping off with Zamir White. No extension for Josh Jacobs coming on the horizon unless he balls out like nobody's business this year. They have to get Zamir White some touches this year, include him in the offense. So that was my strategy in this draft, and most drafts going forward, going for upside later in the later rounds.
I love it, and I'm gonna kick real quick back to Katie because it seems like in the back half of this draft, you guys were just you were making one decision, and Katie was taking the other. So we had Pierce to Mack. We had never mind. I'm messing up what I'm looking at. Sorry about that. But I do want to actually get the back half of Katie. If you want to expand on any of your diamonds in the rough here on the back end, I'd love to hear it.
So, I mean, it's very thin at the position at this point, and you're probably not going to get this deep with wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends also in the mix. But if you need to, I think that Michael Carter is going to be a good 1B to Breece Hall. And if there is a Breece Hall injury, Michael Carter has shown he can run the backfield by himself. He's been in a tandem all his college career. And if he gets a little bit with maybe even a bite So that's why I took him. There's some upside there. Damien Williams is the backup in Atlanta. Sorry, it's not Algier. I like Algier in Dynasty, but I like Williams for this year in redraft as a backup to Cordell Patterson. And then Mark Ingram, just in case. First of all, you've got Alvin Kamara that may face a suspension this year. Probably not. But even still, New Orleans has shown that they can still make two running backs relevant. And, again, for who else was left, I think Ingram is that one back away. If Kamara either was injured or if he were suspended, he could take the role.
Oh, you don't think first? What is it? The USFL's premier running back Darius Victor won't come back to New Orleans and take that?
No.
No.
Neither do I. No, neither. All right, moving right along. Tim Lazenby, go ahead and give me some of the highlights of your draft.
Well, firstly, when Jorge took Austin Eckler from me, it was like taking my firstborn child. I held back the tears. Listen, I got to say something about Austin Eckler.
We're not being hyperbolic at all either.
Everybody thinks the guy, I shouldn't say everybody, the common misconception is he's just a scat back. Oh, he's small. He's a pass catcher and whatever. Well, last year when they finally gave him the opportunity, you got to see what he could do in the end zone, just simply rushing the ball as well. Now, granted, I'm a homer, so they're a grain of salt, right? But unbiasedly, I think Austin Eckler's 20 touchdowns probably won't happen, but the yardage, I think, will increase. The number of catches will increase. The Chargers have invested so much into their offense and defense. Offense will get better. Defense is better. That means offense is on the field more. So I think Austin Eckler at 3 is fantastic. And a lot of people aren't giving him the credit. So I took Harris, which, I mean, you can't go wrong with Najee Harris either. But, yeah, he broke my heart a little bit.
Sorry, but not sorry. But sorry.
Josh Jacobs, nobody – I say nobody. I like to exaggerate. But a bunch of people don't even realize the guy's an RB1 statistically in PPR. So this guy, you're getting him way late. He's an RB1. He didn't get signed by the Raiders. I think he's going to make them regret that decision personally. There's a lot less focus on him because now you have more guys who can focus on Devontae Adams, double team and triple team. And I mean, I think it's a steal at that value. For me, I would take him way earlier if I had to, but I know I don't have to. So I love that pick. And Kenneth Gainwell, he's like my number 2 target in every draft for value purposes. Number 1's Cole Kmet. That's a different story. But Kenneth Gainwell, I love that kid, especially in Dynasty. It's unbelievable how stupid the public is. My draft mates included, even in my home league, everybody, or I'm completely an idiot and he's going to be terrible. But I just have this feeling they're going to have to utilize him so much more in the passing game. Again, A.J. Brown comes. Some people think that, Gainwell is useless now. That's even better for me because now he can be used because of the double and triple teams on A.J. Brown. I think it's especially that late when it's so sparse like we know. I think it's a great value. Other than that, yeah, it was just going for not dynasty feel, more of a you're just going to try and get what you can now early, and then the late ones we're looking for injuries like Haskins. God forbid there's an injury to Henry again, but it's a good thing to have in your back pocket.
Sure, and I like how on your back end you went with Cook and Gainwell, who can be PPR targets for you. Are probably good PPR targets or targets in PPR leagues as we get into the back half, as we get through the dead zone and into the later rounds of drafts. Clayton, go ahead and give me your draft, my friend. It looks like you got Derrick Henry number 5. How do you feel about that?
People are treating Derrick Henry like he's already got a foot in the grave. Man, he's going to come back. He's gonna dominate at least this season. Maybe next season we see his workload lighten. Depending on how the year goes for him. But I'm still firmly behind. He's going to get the majority of Tennessee's touches. Coming back around, I grabbed Saquon because I still believe in Saquon because I invested too much in moving up to grab him in rookie drafts. I have to believe in him at this point. And I think he has a potential, to absolutely finish as a RB1 in that offense. Not a lot behind him. And then coming back around in the third round, I was a little torn. Elijah Mitchell was sitting there, but I said ETN because James Robinson, when's he coming back? We don't know. He could be out the majority of the season, putting ETN in a true RB1 type workhorse role. And them fresh legs coming out of college. He had the foot injury, had a year off. He's over it. So I think he's going to come out. He's going to dominate after impressing at OTAs. And I think that offense is going to look a whole lot better. Tony Pollard, of course, he's got standalone value away from Zeke. I feel like he could see even more receptions with the way this offense has gone with the trading of Amari and all that. Chase Edmonds, already explained that. I think he's going to lead that backfield. It's going to be a little more spread around than I'd like, but it is what it is. I think Edmonds can make the most of it. Rojo, I'm anti-coach speak there because it's Rojo. I think he's going to. I think he might take some work from CEH. I do. And Nyheim Hines, good PPR option. I mean, he's there in that category with Gainwell for me because I like Gainwell as well. Tim, you're not crazy. But yeah, with the coach speak coming out, with the fact that he could see a lot more receptions this year, I mean, this late, why not? And then Brian Robinson, if he can get that goal line work, they really tried with Gibson and it didn't seem to pan out last season. I mean, if he can get some valuable touches like that, why not grab him at the end?
I love that pick. Then again, I'm biased because I'm a Washington fan, but I still love that pick regardless.
Honestly, the Hines pick I love the most. I mean, really, Nyheim Hines was I believe was a top 24 PPR running back in 2020. He was down a little last year, but he has standalone value even when Jonathan Taylor is healthy. He's not the. It's hard to always predict when it comes. But especially if you have these deep dynasty rosters, if you have a 14 or 16 team league where you're looking for RB2 starts on during those bye weeks, Nyheim Hines is valuable. And again, when he that's a really, I shouldn't do that. If Jonathan Taylor were to get hurt, it's easily to me feels like he'd be a part of at least a 50-50 split. And you don't want him to be your starting running back. Certainly not, but he could definitely lead a committee as now a veteran of the team for however many years, and really has made some big plays and won some big games for them, to be honest.
Yeah, and Nyheim Hines also, you got to think about the new quarterback in Matt Ryan. We know Carson Wentz wasn't a huge guy when it comes to throwing to his running backs. Matt Ryan, however, we just saw Cordell Patterson have a great season off of receiving. Matt Ryan's a very non-mobile. He's 37 now. Like, he's not going to be running around in the pocket. If he sees pressure, he's going to be thrown to the running backs. And Nyheim Hines Jonathan Taylor will definitely get more receiving work, but Nyheim Hines is also a great pass catcher. So I feel like we could see a bump for him this year compared to last year.
Well, and Jonathan Taylor, he can't have 4,000 touches again. Like, they got to involve other guys or he's going to retire when he's like 26.
All right, moving right along. Kacey, go ahead and give me your draft.
Okay, how fun was this? I haven't written anything or talked about fantasy football in so long. It's like, okay, so this is going to be a fun one.
And I put you in an RB only, third round reversal, mess with your head draft. That's me.
Perfect.
But listen,
welcome back, Kacey.
It's 'tis the season to draft, and Joe Mixon.
That's right.
Joe Mixon. I mean, I want a piece of that offense, and Joe Mixon is constantly falling to where I feel comfortable taking him and being like, okay, cool. So that's why I went with Joe Mixon there, and which is crazy. I didn't even realize until after I made the Evans pick at the very end. I was like freaking out because I was like, who to pick? And I just picked him. And then it turns out that,
that's awesome.
Name recognition. No, I know everybody's been talking him up and stuff. And Samaje Perine's not really anybody that I want to write home about. So I can't do that. Then Nick Chubb, I mean, again, like solid guy. David Montgomery, I know we were talking about him earlier. Like he constantly he just keeps falling and keeps falling, and it's like it's so delightful to be able to get him and to get him in like the Scott Fish Bowl too, when people are just like totally ignoring the fact that he's there. I'm like, okay, cool. Very underrated, not talked about nearly enough. Miles Sanders, I was talking to Dynasty Outhouse Russ about him. He kind of changed my mind on whether like that Miles Sanders could be a sneaky running back. I'm not 100% sure I want to trust what Russ has to say, but he was very convincing at the time, so we'll shoot our shot on that one. Melvin Gordon, I mean, he's still there, like he's going to get the ball. They're still going to give him the ball. Goal line work last year, and I could see that happening again this year. So he's still going to be there. And this late, I mean, you have to take guys like that are going to at least get to touch the ball. McKissick is one of my favorites, like ever. He's one of those guys that can catch the ball, obviously. And he's just kind of one of my guys that I like have on a lot of my teams just stashed, because you need to plug and play him bye weeks and stuff. Like it's always great to have somebody like that. Algier, I know we were Katie had brought up earlier. And the reason I went with him there was just because I was looking at it from a standpoint of I didn't have any rookies yet. I wanted to kind of, take a chance on one of those guys. So that's why I went in that direction.
I like it. To be honest, for me, I really like those veteran running backs, because we are doing. It's whatever. We're never going to play this league out, but it's technically a redraft league that we're taking here. I really like guys like Gordon and McKissick backing up my bench, because if you think about it, really, we can't really project. I don't want to hold on to a rookie that's going to waste the roster spot early in my season when I might have a running back who's taking a large portion of a committee that can be traded right now. So I love players like Gordon in a timeshare that when they start producing early in the season, and you have all these players, you have some other league mates who decided to go rookie heavy in their builds, and not all of them work out, or go a little more ambiguous in their draft strategy for RB. They need a running back, and Melvin Gordon's sitting there. Honestly, McKissick can be sitting there, and he has plenty of top 20 weeks as a PPR guy.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about Melvin Gordon, like, he's a solid pass catcher, and he's a great nose for the end zone. We know that about Gordon throughout most of his career. He has a nose for the end zone. Scored 8 touchdowns on the ground alone last year on 900 plus rushing yards. Sorry. Gordon's a great value in drafts. Yeah.
It choked him up. That's how good of a value he is.
Hutch, while we got you here, why don't you go ahead and give us your draft?
Sorry. Oh, my throat just closed up a little bit there. Sorry. Anyway, going through I've already ranted about Breece Hall. I'll skip him for now. DeAndre Swift. I just think he's going to be an absolute stud this year, stepping into year 3. This offense is growing and getting better and better. I believe he'll stay healthy most of the season and just have a great year. Breece Hall talked about. James Conner is interesting because he's someone that I've started to actually like less. He's someone in the beginning of the offseason I was really liking. He's someone I'm starting to like less. I'm starting to get more concerned about someone I drafted later in Darrell Williams, who I think is honestly going to might be the Chase Edmonds again of this offense. Take some pass catching work. We saw him do that in Kansas City. We saw him be a very relevant back in Kansas City. I think he could do it again in Arizona here. And then one more name I want to give Kenneth Walker down the stretch could have an amazing breakout. Just watch out for him. And then I really like Gus Edwards in this backfield, has the opportunity to be the number 2. And then Tyron Davis Price for San Francisco. Elijah Mitchell, I believe he had 5 different injuries last year. Am I correct on that? He had 5 different injuries last year that he was struggling with. He missed a couple games. If he misses time, Davis Price is the next guy who's the 3rd-round pick. We've seen San Francisco rookies come in, make an impact. Heck, we just saw it with Elijah Mitchell. Why can't Tyron Davis Price do the same exact thing?
The thing I do wonder with San Francisco is if Trey Lance is starting, a lot of that rush game to the outside where they have that power blocking. I wonder if Lance ends up taking a lot more of that than we're expecting, and you might see them fully switch it. I mean, I'm thinking probably not, but you might end up getting to the point where you need a guy like he wasn't drafted here, but if Trey Sermon is going to be the guy who comes up the middle for San Francisco, while Trey Lance is taking design runs to the outside now. I'm actually it's one of the backfields that, to be honest, I want a piece of, but I really have no idea where to throw my chips. I have no idea with San
Over the past
Francisco.
few years, the leading rusher changes every year. Like I believe over the past 5 years, the leading rusher has been different every year.
Yeah.
Like the San Francisco backfield, you never want the first guy drafted, which is why I'm completely fading Elijah Mitchell and taking my shot on Davis Price or.
Wouldn't it be the ultimate Shanahan own to like just pull Trey Sermon back out of his pocket after everyone thinks he's dust and just be like, here we go. Now we're just
You heard it here on Primetime Mock First. # Sermon season.
No, please don't attribute that to me. Don't bring that to me.
That would be the ultimate 49ers move. I mean, the 49ers beat.
That's what I mean.
Kyle Shanahan is never trustworthy. Anything that comes out of those beat reports, you never trust. You always do the opposite of what they say. Like, if Trace, that would be absolutely a 49ers thing to do. Yeah. Just bring out Trey Sermon and let him run. That'd be awesome.
And then I do want to talk real quick, Hutch, about the Cardinals backfield, because for me, I do like Connor as a starter there. I worry a little bit just about their offensive line, especially now that they've got a big contract to pay Kyler. A guy like James Conner, he was a good rusher behind behind that Steelers offensive line that they were keeping afloat as long as Big Ben was there. Now going to a new system, 49er system, where I sort of worry a little bit about James Conner's productivity going forward. But can you ease my mind a little?
I honestly can't. James Conner, he's still my RB12 in my rankings, so I'm still pretty high on him because, I mean, this offense is going to be hyper productive. They're always going to be top in pace of play. They're going to be up there. They're going to be on the field, scoring a ton of points. And the offense, the way they use running backs, when they get in the red zone, when they get inside the 10, inside the 5, their favorite play, running up the middle, nothing entertaining, running up the middle. That is the way they do it. And as a result, I mean, we saw Kenyon Drake score a ton of touchdowns in Arizona his starting year. Yeah. We've seen it with David Johnson. We've seen it with James Conner now. So there's going to be opportunity for touchdowns. James Conner should easily be a double-digit touchdown guy. And that should be enough for him to be good for fantasy. But what I'm worried about is his potential to be an RB1, like be great for fantasy because of Darrell Williams potentially taking that pass-catching work. And if Darrell Williams starts taking pass-catching work, then we start to get into the debate where James Conner may only be dependent on touchdowns. And that's going to give you a lot of inconsistency week to week. That's going to give you a lot of problems in your matchups week to week, where James Conner is going to leave you in the dust some weeks, and then he's going to give you good production others. So James Conner is someone that I've slowly faded in drafts recently.
If I could I jump back in on this Elijah Mitchell's 49ers backfield situation here?
Go for it.
So I just want to defend this pick a little bit because,
you're kind
I understand what you're saying as far as like every other year, it's always somebody new in San Francisco that's kind of leading the way. You have to realize a lot of that is because the running backs just are going down to injuries, and therefore they have to cycle new people in. Mostert goes down, Jeff Wilson comes in, so on and so forth. Let's not forget, in 2019 down the stretch when they finally started emphasizing Elijah Mitchell, he was like getting 14 and 19 touches a game, and we saw what he did in the playoffs. We saw what he did in the Super Bowl. You go back into 2020, in the games that he was healthy, he was getting the rock 15 times a game, to 17 times a game. So it's not that Shanahan likes to cycle through and just go Belichick on you, and you never know who he's going to lean on. No, who he's going to lean on. The problem is that these people just can't stay healthy. So now to your point, yes, Elijah Mitchell was dealing with a lot of injuries last year, but when he was there, when he was on the field, he was the emphasized running back. So it's not like there's like a committee you have to worry about. You have to worry about is we're not, they're drafting players that just don't have the durability to handle the NFL. But
Yeah,
again, you can't draft every year thinking about injury, because then you're going to be paranoid about everybody. If you're worried about Elijah Mitchell getting injured, well, and you're fading him in drafts, well, then you have to do the same thing for Christian McCaffrey, right? But that's not the case. People are saying, you have to draft Christian McCaffrey because the upside. The same premise, goes for somebody that is like Elijah Mitchell this year.
It's tough for Elijah Mitchell for me because I don't see. I am concerned about injuries, and if he was a good pass catcher, I'd be more in Elijah Mitchell. But the problem is, I don't see him getting pass catching work. He never really proved that much in the pass catching. He never proved that much in the pass catching game last season. And now you've got a quarterback who's very mobile in Trey Lance. And we see Lamar Jackson, right? Those Ravens running backs are not getting pass catching work. When Lamar sees pressure, he runs. He's not throwing to a running back. If Trey Lance sees pressure, he's going to run. He's not going to throw to a running back.
See, I disagree with that. Just because a quarterback is super athletic does not mean that they're a run-first quarterback. They drafted him because of his passing prowess in college, not because he was some, scrambling up the middle, evading pressure, going, they drafted him because of his quarterback prowess, his ability to stay in the pocket and deliver. The concern about durability, with San Francisco keeping that going. Do you really think they're going to expose Trey Lance to that many designed rushing plays just because of his quote-unquote athleticism? I don't think so. I think they want to hold him for the long term. They just dealt with a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo who was injured. I don't think they want to do the same thing with Trey Lance.
Yeah, I think ultimately though, once they move over to Lance, they're going to have a completely new, different package. I'm sure they can't shy away from him doing. I don't think they're going to have absolutely no rushing. I can only imagine that it's going to be implemented in a part of his game. But yes, I would agree that it's not all. He can't take all of it. That would be insane. Sure.
Yeah.
But that's going to conclude our running back show for Primetime Mock. I really appreciated getting to talk strategy with this group tonight. I always love bringing people from all over the community together. That's what we're all about here. And I really appreciated this one tonight. So let's give a hand to everyone here, and we're going to go through. Jorge Edwards, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me at fantasyandframes.com. You can check us out over at Fantasy and Frames on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the social media sites. But really head over to fantasyandframes.com. There are a lot of great writers there putting out a lot of content. A lot of Dynasty, a lot of redraft, IDP, DFS, you name it. We got it. Check us out. Let us know what you think. Follow us on Twitter at Fantasy and Frames.
I love hanging out with the Fantasy and Frames crew. You know me. We got to get to know each other a lot at the Expo last year.
Oh, yes.
And I'm in the Four-Eyed Championship tournament this year. Very excited about that. Very excited about what Fantasy and Frames is doing over here. Let's move it over to the diva of Debbie herself, Katie Flower. Let them know where they can find you.
Thanks, Mark. It was great being on here. Nice to meet you, and good to see you again, Kacey. You can find me on Twitter at FF_Skyler399. I'm on the Under the Helmet podcast. It's a Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast, and I am a guest on a lot of Debbie shows. So you can follow me on Twitter and then find out which other shows that you'll see me as a guest on. Thanks again.
I listen to you for the Debbie, but I must say every once in a while on that Under the Helmet, when you're just talking about regular running backs, it drew me to you. I feel like I had to get you on for a running back show because I just love the way you break down the position.
Thanks.
All right, moving right along. Tim Lazenby, go ahead and let them know where they can find you.
You can find me. I write articles at dynastyprosfootball.com. Great website. There's a fantastic IDP calculator, trade calculator, which is hard to find. I don't do it. Our website does it, but it's handy.
By association.
And I also am on Twitter. I'm very active at NFL Lazenby. I tweet only about football. I think the thousands of tweets I've done, like 2 are not about football. So you won't find any, food shots or me tweeting about the weather. And I'm very interactive as well with people. I like to be encouraging and such. So that's what I like to do. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
I'd love to see you take a picture of your food once in a while, Tim. But that's neither here nor there. Love having you here. Congratulations on being the newbie here tonight. And we hope to make it many more in the future. Kacey, Kasem, let them know where they can find you.
Yes, you guys can find me on Twitter at the Kacey Kasem. I do tweet about the weather, but only because I'm so frustrated at how hot it is that I want everybody else to, feel the same pain I feel. You can also find my podcast. So I used to write, but now I just podcast. I have a podcast called Get Real with Kacey Kasem, available on all the platforms that you listen to your podcast. And it basically just goes behind the scenes of the fantasy football industry. I talk to a lot of creators in the space, a lot of analysts, and kind of just get their backstory. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you're one who likes to know about the back end of the who are they now of fantasy, I would definitely recommend Kacey's podcast. If you're one looking to get into the fantasy industry, they tell your guests tell a lot of great stories on there, and yeah, I think if you're one who wants to explore yourself out in the fantasy space, listening to the Get Real pod is definitely one you've got to see. Hutchinson Brown, go ahead and tell us where they can find you.
You guys can go follow me on Twitter at HutchinsonB_FF. I'm a host of Hutchinson Brown's Fantasy Football Perspective, and I do write for DLF. I do make video shorts for the football guys and their YouTube channel. And yeah, you can find all those links on my Twitter account. I'm also, I'm about 41 followers away from hitting 5,000 on Twitter. So
let's get this guy to 5,000.
Getting close to there. So I appreciate it if you were all to drop a follow. Getting close.
Well, I will. I'll try and shoot something out. I don't know how much influence I have, but I'll try and help you out, Hutch.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
And always great to have you on. I guess we're having you back next week, so you should be.
Yeah.
Plenty of reps in. You've got the voice will be all warmed up. So if you were really worried about the voice quality tonight out there, I wasn't. As a voice teacher myself, I wasn't too worried about it. But if you were worried about it, next week Hutchinson's voice will be crystal clear. So we can pray for that. And on behalf of Burner, you can find him at Burner of Stone. I'm Mark Shue. You can find me on Twitter at Primetime Mock. Go find that pinned tweet and sign up for Fantasy Football, the DFS and Fantasy Football reality competition I put together last year.
Oh.
There's a great video out there. And again, we're first prize is going to be $5,000. Next week, we'll be talking wide receivers, as we said. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time.